Let's get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Brown University Masters in Technology Leadership webinar. I'm the program director, Pete Chomowicz, and today we're going to be talking with one of our alumni, Matt Ackerman, who graduated almost a year ago. So let me share my screen so you can see Matt's bio. We absolutely welcome the participation and questions from all of you that are online. So to do that, use the Q&A function, and my colleague Emma, who's online with us, she'll get to your questions in about 15 minutes or so after Matt and I have a short chat. So Matt is currently the Chief Technology Officer at an MTL Brown startup, Cognitive Edge. It was founded by two fellow Brown alumni in the same class as Matt. We'll be talking about that a little bit. The company specializes in digitally transforming training pipelines for specialized teams in both the Department of Defense and commercial sectors. Before joining Cognitive Edge, Matt worked as a software engineer at several organizations, including Thomson Reuters and Medtronic, eventually becoming a lead engineer at Delta Airlines, where he led the architectural shift of software from on-premise data centers to the cloud. Matt holds a master's degree in technology leadership from Brown. His academic background also includes a master's in data science and a bachelor's in management information systems. He's based in Minneapolis, enjoys athletics, reading, and being led by his one-year-old daughter. We were hoping for one of our other alumni to join us, Ada Moy, who's a program manager at Google, but she was unable to. I'm sure she'll join us at a future webinar. Any of your questions that you have after this webinar, you can direct to me or my colleague, Susan Coogan, who's available by email at professional@brown.edu. Okay, Matt, we lost your video.
Yes.
There you are.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us. We know you're very busy with your startup. I'm going to take the conversation a little bit chronologically. So you already had a master's degree. You were working successfully at Delta Airlines. You had a big position there. What is it? What was it like a few years ago when you felt you needed another master's, something that wasn't technical, but that was really based in leadership?
Yeah, yeah, great question, Peter. And that's kind of exactly it, right? So all my past experience was very quantitative. It was all computer science based and like data engineering. So my prior master's, like you mentioned, was in data science. So my work was very heads down. And I thought for a while there that that was what I kind of wanted to focus on, was that very technical aspect. But as I kind of moved forward in my career, I found that there was a certain kind of aspect of my personality or some of the things that I found that I'm good at weren't being properly utilized in my career path. So I found that I like a little bit more of like an interpersonal connections, more communications, and that I'm good at it. I'm good at kind of relaying very technical subject matter to less technical people. So I wanted to, keep my quantitative experience with me, but also kind of pivot my career path into more of an interpersonal kind of trajectory. So I was looking around for different types of leadership programs, mainly MBAs, but I found that they were a little bit kind of too horizontal for my liking. So they were more lightly brushing on accounting, finance, all of these different things. Where I found that I like to kind of dive a little bit deeper and into more of a vertical within that. So I was trying to find something that was more technical focused, but leading it and being more focused on kind of the strategy and more of that leadership base for it. So I found the technology leadership program at Brown, and I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was like spot on, exactly kind of the criteria I had for if I was going to go and do another master's program.
That's fantastic. I want to dig into that in a second, but first I want to introduce Ada Moy, who is a fellow classmate, graduated last year in the MTL program, currently at Google. So Ada, the question to Matt was, what were you doing a year or two ago in your career that you felt like you needed a new master's in leadership?
Yeah, sounds good. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. So when I think this was fresh out of the pandemic, or I guess it's hard to know exactly when the pandemic ended, but was really looking to kind of reinvigorate, my skills. I had been at Google at that time for 5 or 6 years, all within the engineering team within Google, and was just feeling like I was adapting to the way that Google ran everything. And I knew that that wasn't reality, because I think a lot of the problems were that Google were facing, really needed a new flavor, a new twist. And I felt like, because I was just surrounded by people that were very much like me after being there for 5 or 6 years, wanting just a new and fresh perspective. And so, a little bit about my academic background. I had graduated with a business management degree already in my undergraduate, and so have a foundation in finance, marketing, IT, and all of those things. And did a master's in data science, and so I really felt like I didn't necessarily need a full-on MBA, especially one that would take me away from my job, which I actually really loved and wasn't necessarily looking to leave the workforce. And so I, had been looking at programs, and I think I actually just saw a LinkedIn ad. So whoever was responsible at Brown for doing LinkedIn ads did a great job. Was like, oh, whoa, what is this? And when I saw a program that combined strategy, leadership, and technology, I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I was looking into it, and I was really trying to dig into. I think one of the questions that probably had asked Peter, or one of the the program team was, is everyone just coming from tech? Because that was not what I was looking for, and I wanted to really think outside of the box. And so when I found out there were people from the military, people from all parts of the world, and our class, cohort 7, was very much, I think there was only maybe 3 or 4 of us that really came from proper tech. People coming from the oil and gas industry, and so I think that's really what made again my choice into this program, and definitely solidified my choice in doing this program. And I think, one of my, on-site days at Brown, where I actually connected with a classmate who was in oil and gas, and we were solving very similar problems, but just in completely different industries. And I think that, again, was kind of the magic happening in the program that really took us through the whole year and a half. And I think I see Matt nodding, so he very much agrees with kind of how our class really interacted with each other, as well as like helped each other from our own perspectives. So
That's beautifully said. I see my work here is done. The two of you have just sort of framed completely what the program is about and its trajectory. It's sort of oddly, when we created the program 10 years ago, it was very much with the two of you sort of people in mind, that I knew from my own career in academia and in professional practice, working for big engineering companies. Engineering curriculum and engineering companies tend to promote people because they're good at solving problems, solving technical problems. There's no space in either of those two environments to develop leading people. People are not projects, right? So a STEM-based curriculum doesn't touch on soft skills, and typically engineering companies don't either. And sometimes I feel like we set our best engineers up to fail because they're not being trained. Leadership is something that you can be trained in. It's not just it's an acquired skill. So Ada, you framed that very well, and I appreciate that. And you also framed that 10 years on, maybe less than half of our students are actually like STEM professionals that are working as frontline individual contributors. Many of them are, and they see that they've been either asked by their organization, or they themselves feel they have the ability to have a greater impact in their institution, and so they want those leadership skills. And they come from, as you say, from oil and gas, from the DoD, they come from fintech, they come from cyber, they come from law. Many of our students have law degrees before they enter the program. Some already have MBAs before they enter the program. And by the way, for all of you online, we have a series of webinars throughout the year on all those subjects, interviews with different sorts of alumni, as well as deep dives in the curriculum. And we can send you all those recordings for anything that you'd like to know about the program. Okay, so let's switch gears slightly. Now you're in the program and you're working with all of these fellow students from all over the country in all these different industries. you're working on teams. We do put you on teams to work on projects as well as your own critical challenge project of your own making. Tell us a little bit we'll start with Ada. What did that sort of feel like for you to work with people that were very different? You touched on it a minute ago, different walks of life. How do you feel that you really helped each other raise your game, learning and solving problems that were similar but from different industries?
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm thinking back to actually one of the projects we had in the finance class. So this was, I think, one of our summer classes where a lot of folks in the class that had not had finance as a background was struggling through the content a little bit. Peter's
Yep.
again acknowledging kind of all the commotion that happened there, but there were a handful of us that actually did have finance backgrounds. And so, it was, I think we almost try to spread ourselves in each group as much as possible and identified ourselves to be able to, again, help each other through the curriculum. And so I think that was very true across all of our different courses. So, finance was one that was more, again, technical in terms of like these skills you needed to understand, an income statement, a P&L statement. But I think, again, I'm thinking even in our capstone projects where we did have to work independently, a lot of us, I think even during our lunchtime, for example, would talk about like what our project is and, solicit advice. I remember another one of our classmates was from insurance, and I had worked in insurance once upon a time. And so we had a great conversation about where he was hoping to take that project. And so I think it was very much, even in our capstone project where we work independently, I think we sought each other out in terms of making sure we were thinking through the problem holistically. And then again, in the classroom when we were working through all our coursework, it was, it wasn't that like, oh, one person, like, oh, this person knows everything, so they're the ones answering all the questions. It was very much all of us trying to learn from each other as much as from the content and the material.
Thanks, Ada. How about you, Matt? What was it like working on diverse teams, so forth? Yep.
Yeah, no, I think Ada said it really, really well. Going into the program, I wasn't sure entirely what to expect, given that it kind of has a unique component to it with not only the subject matter, but kind of the partially like in-person, out-of-person type of format. So I was very happy to discover how important those relationships were when you entered the program. And then not only just in like a broad general sense of the overall classroom, but then that you're also kind of shepherded into these smaller groups. And so it doesn't just change depending on each class, but kind of it's more time based. So for a few months, you're in this own kind of group, and you get to really like make bonds with that specific group. And then over the time, it kind of creates almost like different chapters to the program because you iterate through these different cycles of groups. And it's fascinating because you find people from all these different walks of life and different fields, and you end up finding yourself interested in different industries that you would have otherwise not been. So, for example, now through connections at Brown, I now work in an industry that I had never anticipated myself working in. But then you meet these different people and you kind of grow an understanding of what that kind of entails. And you find yourself gaining a lot of knowledge into different things that you would have otherwise not had the opportunity to do so. So I really enjoyed that, and I found one of my favorite aspects of the program were those communications. It really was just putting a bunch of people into a room with similar desires and ambitions, and what they're looking for in a career, and really what that similarity is just growth. They're just looking to grow. And I found that kind of bouncing ideas off other people with that similar, growth prospect was really fantastic, and one of my favorite parts of the program.
We like to refer to the curriculum as action oriented, which means it's a blend of theory and highly applied ideas. So yes, there's a lot of reading, and you're doing writing, and you're reflecting on projects, and you're understanding kind of the theoretical basis behind many subjects. But because you're all career professionals, we want to make sure that learning can be applied directly to your day job. You don't have to wait several years for it to necessarily mature. Ada, in your case, were there opportunities, whether it was the persuasive communication class or the finance class, which you already had a background in, things that you were picking up that you were able to apply sort of in real time while you were still in the program to your work at Google?
Yeah. One of the actually hitting on a piece of advice I give to folks that are considering this program is very much, everyone's thinking this is in addition to, your full-time job, maybe family and other things. I very much felt like I could work on my, challenges I was facing at work while through doing the Brown curriculum. And so when we were doing all of our journal entries on leadership, for example, and we would, learn about a theory in the classroom or read a case study, and then we have to reflect on it. A lot of times, there's a summary of like what the theory or the kind of the more academic piece of it was, but most of it was really focused on, to Peter, your point, like the applied part of it, right? And so I remember, I think halfway through the program, I had decided that I wanted to be closer to a problem to be solved. And so I've been working in engineering for a long time, in a site reliability engineering role where we were often partnered with the folks that were making these like major product changes and decisions, but being more reactive as opposed to like being in the strategy and development part of the work. And so again, halfway through the program, I switched into this more product development role where I was very much being tested in terms of like, everyone was changing around, no one had the problem solved. And using some of the structures that we were learning in the classroom, I could actually reason about, okay, this is the problem that we're trying to solve. Like, this is what I'm learning in the classroom. How can we use some of this structure that we're learning to solve, again, these really big challenges that I'm facing? And so I never felt like, it wasn't a perfect, overlap, but it was always, I felt like I could work on big problems that I was facing with the curriculum I was learning.
That's wonderful to hear. I'm going to switch gears once again, and we're going to sort of fast forward to what you've been, how have you enjoyed life since graduating from the program almost a year ago? So, Matt, big career change for you. You joined a startup that was incubated amongst your classmates, two of your classmates. So you left Delta and you joined Cognitive Edge. So tell us about that journey. I mean, what is the company, and how have you found, how's it going, I guess, first of all, and then how is the curriculum at Brown complemented your technical background as the role in the role of CTO?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a little background on the company, Cognitive Edge. We focus on like digital transformation in the Department of Defense. Currently, down the road, we'll kind of move outward to expand to other markets. But currently, within the Department of Defense, focused on implementing software solutions that remove redundancies, kind of automate those low value add tasks, and then using that as essentially a conduit through which we collect large amounts of data and then can provide, predictive insights and different analytics back to that end client. So that's what we do. And like you said, at the time of the MTL program, while I was a member of the cohort, I was working at Delta Airlines, and also my wife was pregnant with our first child, and she gave birth. Actually, it's funny because we had our daughter, and then 2 weeks later, I was on a flight to North Carolina for my first day with this startup. So it was kind of a whirlwind, but it was an amazing journey. And really, what happened is just through again those personal communications with the other members of the cohort just led me to fall in love with Tyler and Colleen, the other two, the founders of the company, and just the vision of what the company is about and the overall mission. And it kind of came down to them presenting me with an opportunity, and me taking it. So it's kind of a whirlwind, and then back to kind of how the program has supported me in my role here at Cognitive Edge. It's interesting because coming from like an engineering and a highly quantitative background, what what I wanted to do was understand the more qualitative nature of management and leadership. So I always wanted things to be very clear and have concise outputs, right? So like given X variables, like some leadership scenario, right? I want to be able to know and have a well-defined correct answer or correct action I should take depending on the scenario. That was quickly not the case. That's quickly what I found to be not a viable way to approach leadership. And so through a lot of different coursework, such as like persuasive communication and the speech classes, I found about all the subtleties of leadership and communication. All those subtle cues that you present to people in conversation and those subtle ways you can anchor conversations. It's very, very important. And also how context-based it is, right? So there's not always a correct answer, but you need to essentially weigh your options and take action. And so given I am a CTO, so I do have a technical aspect to my role. However, a lot of it is that qualitative nature, right? So a lot of it is leadership and managing people and strategy. So what I found is that all of those subtle things that Brown taught me are just as important or have become just as important as all the explicit quantitative things that Brown has taught me. So I use it honestly. I use what I learned at Brown every day. And I don't think I would be able to manage people or an organization the way I currently do without it. So not only would I not have had this opportunity, but I don't think I would have done as well in this role without the backing and support of Brown.
Well, we couldn't be more proud of the two of you. I know, Ada, you've got to jump back to work in a few minutes, so I'm going to open it up now. My colleague Emma, to see if we have questions from the audience, and Ada, feel free to jump off whenever you need to go.
Yes, it looks like we have a couple questions in here. Just a reminder, if you do have any questions for our alumni, please drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom toolbox. We have an attendee who has professional background as a C-level leader for a national nonprofit, but would like to pivot. They have an MBA in finance already, but limited background in the tech fields. Is their background aligned with ideal candidates for the MTL program? And then will I find ways to align my aspirations with the coursework?
Either of you want to take that one? You've had some of your colleagues fit that profile, actually. Either one?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. So I guess maybe I guess I'm making an assumption on this question that this person, because it is anonymous, wants to make a transition from finance to tech. I guess I'm drawing that conclusion. If that's not true, and someone in the audience wants to say otherwise, please feel free to chime in. But I am actually someone that actually made the pivot from finance to tech. I spent about a decade in finance before I joined Google. And I think that's one of the questions I get asked, actually quite often, more often than I would have ever expected, which is how do you transition from finance to tech if that is something that you think you might want to do? And I think this actually goes along with hopefully my opening speech on kind of how you make that transition, right, is really for me. I knew that I was bringing a skill set to the table that was unlike everyone else, and so when I looked at a problem. I'm solving it very differently than any of the engineers I've met at Google. And so, I think in the beginning, I very much had imposter syndrome. I didn't, even know how to write Java code properly, right? I remember, again, I have a funny story on that for another time. But it was, one of those things where, I knew I was hired to bring on that different perspective and the problem hadn't been solved. And so, that was the one, one pinch I always said to myself, which is, if, I wasn't hired onto this team or even into this project because I was like everybody else. And so I think this program, very much helps you identify kind of what your skills are and how you balance a team. And so we talked a little bit about the project work that happened in this program. It was very much that case. There wasn't another person, usually in my team that had the finance background. And so I was able to contribute to that. Other people had more like leadership and public speaking, and wasn't afraid to go up in front of the classroom and present, our results. There's usually one or two people in each group that are like, oh, I'll do it. I'm very comfortable with that. And so I think, I think this program, again, it would be interesting to you if you're willing to, kind of go out of your comfort zone, right? Raise your hand when you do have that expertise, right? And I think, again, technology is so vast. That's the hard thing too. Like, again, even at Google, not everyone is a software engineer. And so I think it's just about finding kind of, your special niche and what you like to do, but applying it in this other industry. So.
You touch on one thing that we ask all the candidates when they apply, and it's about teaching and learning. So we expect that, and that's why we have one of the essay questions is what you hope to contribute. All of you are unique. It is a cohort-based model. You work closely, as you've been hearing this afternoon, with each other on teams. You come to campus twice for residential sessions, but it's presumed that you also have much to learn. So it's about having an open mind. So it's very much mirrors our curriculum. Emma, another question?
Yes, our next question here. What were your CCP project titles and what were your findings?
We'll look to Matt for that one.
Yeah, I'll start. So my CCP title was Story Space. So it was basically a mobile application that provided literary short stories, but more in like a meditative or mindfulness approach. So it was preceded by like breathing activities, and then it would go into the providing you the short story, and it was really focused about all of the mental health benefits that are associated with reading, especially how quickly you can obtain those. So just within like 10 minutes, the amount of anxiety reduction that can occur just from reading like non-genre general fiction is pretty substantial, right? So I've always loved to read, so I found that was something I was really interested in and wanted to figure out some way to include that in my CCP project. So yeah, it was all about mindfulness and reading. I had the opportunity to pivot to so like about 3/4 of the way through the program is when I joined Cognitive Edge with my other classmates. So I had the opportunity to switch to join their CCP, which was more oriented toward the startup. But I was already so far in it that I was like, I need to see this through, and I'm very happy I did. It was a really great experience. That was mine.
I remember that. I remember your final pitch for that too. Ada.
Yeah, so my CCP project was named Spotlight. And so this is actually a project that I still talk about today because it's very close to me. So my parents, when I was growing up, I was born here in the United States, but my parents are from China. And when they came over from China, they were very limited to the job options, given that English was not, they had to learn English while they were here, and they didn't have the benefit of the internet and other things to be able to learn English much quicker than people are coming over today. But they were able to, work really hard and save up and actually start their own small Chinese restaurant. And one of the things that I remember staying up late helping them with was like helping them with advertising. So I would get a list of all the addresses and businesses in the area and mail out menus. And working at Google, search and ads is a very, big thing. That's how Google makes most of its money. And I always think about, how my parents would have even navigated this world today. If the internet was more prominent in the 90s, it just, for me, I was like, how would they have figured it out? The complexities of search advertising is very, very complex. And so that was my inspiration for Project Spotlight, which was trying to create an advertising platform targeted towards more kind of immigrants or people starting out with a new business that might not be so tech savvy. And so it was, again, a very cool project to be able to work through that tied in both my professional experience as well as my personal experience. So.
I know you've got to hop in a second. I want to give you, Ada, a chance to just, what advice do you have if you were to go back a few years to your old self? What advice would you have to yourself and to the audience about thinking about this program?
Yeah, I think for I'm looking at the chat for the questions as well, and it's interesting. Kind of a lot of people are asking. I'm interested in this specific subject. Is this program right for me? And I would definitely say like if you're interested in something very specific. So at one point in my career, I wanted analytics and data science. There are other programs that are out there that are more targeted towards kind of special skills. I would say this program, very much, I think for you, if you're looking either to make a pivot or just be better at better at your job, a better person in general, because again, you're going to challenge yourself, meeting lots of new people, lots of, again, people from all different industries. And I think the Brown curriculum I've grown to really, close to and dear, which is like, find a problem that you're passionate about solving and then find the group of people that will help you get there. And so if that's kind of the mentality you bring into, this program or even to your work, you're going to get very far. And so I, again, very much encourage folks to talk to others that have also done, gone through this program. But again, I think, if you're at a point in your career where you either feel like I'm thinking like everyone else, in my company, kind of like why I found this program, or again, you're wanting to make a pivot. You can work on your own business. Lots of our classmates actually started their own companies out of this. And so there's lots of different user journeys or use cases for, applying to this program. But I think, you're able to dedicate, a year and a half of time, again, both growing yourself, right? And kind of becoming a better either employee or starting your own business. And so it's very adaptable, the curriculum that Brown has put together. So.
Thank you for that, Ada. And just one
I know you have to
clarification.
drop. Yeah.
We changed the curriculum a little bit. It's now 12 months. So
Oh,
it's a little bit
right.
shorter than when both of you went
Yeah.
through the program.
That's right. Yeah.
Still 8
same
credits,
idea.
still the same courses by and large, same faculty. Yep. Just tighten things up a bit. Thank
you for having me.
Thanks, Ada. Wish you all the best. We'll see you soon. Take care. We've got a few more minutes. Any other questions, Emma?
Yes, it looks like we have about 3 more questions that we can get through here. Are the courses taken together or sequential one by one for each semester?
I'll take that one. You take several of them simultaneously. So they're the heaviest course load. You can enter the program twice. You can enter in the fall semester or in the spring. One is not better than another. The CCP, by the way, is 1 semester, and it's in the fall. And so you would take 3 credits in the fall semester, 3.5 in the spring, and 1.5 in summer. So summer is the lightest. We also offer a partnership with Oxford University that you can take a certificate. Most of our students do it in the summertime because it is the lightest. So it's fully online, and you can choose from a number of courses like fintech and cybersecurity and AI. So you'll take 2 or 3 courses simultaneously is the answer. And most of the courses are half a semester. So you'll take 2 or 3 for 7 or 8 weeks, then there's a break, and then you'll take 2 or 3 more for the remainder of the semester, and then you repeat that.
Another question here. As a person who does not have an MBA or a master's, but is weighing this choice, what made you choose the MTL program over a traditional MBA?
Did you think about an MBA, Matt? Was that?
Yeah, I definitely thought about an MBA. There are a lot of opportunities to do so, right? There's so many different schools that offer MBAs, so you can kind of get whatever flavor you're looking for with it as far as like the logistical side of things. For me, though, an MBA was a bit too horizontal and then shallow in scope on each thing. So like there was an MBA has a little finance part, accounting, all of these different leadership, and then all these different things, where I was looking specifically for something more tech focused because I love tech and I wanted to stay in this industry. So that's kind of what led me to be looking for something a little more specific. But I'll say also, if you don't have a current master's, I mean, there are plenty of people in our program also that came to it just from having an undergrad degree.
Well, great answer. And our academic director, she has her MBA. Many of our students already have it before entering the program, and they've felt that the MTL is an excellent complement for the reasons that Matt's talking about. MBA is really a generalist degree where the MTL focuses on personal leadership development and deepening your skill set, particularly in strategy. Another question.
Yes, we have a question here asking about the diversity of the cohort, how international is the cohort? And then, are there any special considerations an international applicant should take when making their application?
We don't have very many internationally. We've had a few, so nearly all the students are from the US. But what was the other part of the question about applying if you're international?
Yes, just any special considerations that an international student should take into account when applying.
There are a couple. You should look at the deadlines that we have on our website. So we have priority review deadlines. We have several of them if you want to enter in the fall or the spring. And the reason for that is it's a competitive program and the seats fill up. So you have a better chance of being admitted when you apply early. You also have a better chance of receiving a generous scholarship applying early because, again, the scholarship money runs out. The priority deadline, the final application deadline for the fall semester is in June. But as an international student, you should apply a month early because if you're accepted, it's going to take you a couple weeks to get onboarded to Brown, your visa. We provide the visa. I think it's an F1 visa. My colleague, Susan Coogan, member of the professional at brown.edu, can answer all the questions about applying internationally. Is there one more?
Yes, we have another question for you, Peter. This attendee wants to check if the program has enough credits to qualify as a full master's. Being an MBA from an Asian country, they might just be considered as holding a bachelor's degree only.
I mean, the Brown program is a master's. It's a master's of science. It's what Brown considers 8 credits, which I think is 32 in the non-Brown world. We calculate credits a little bit differently. So it is a master's of science. It's not an executive program. It's in partnership with our School of Engineering. And so I think I wasn't quite sure about the part about the undergrad only. Was that another part of the question?
I am not sure.
Okay. Well, hopefully, if that doesn't answer your question, you can follow up with us. And was there one last one?
It looks like that is our final question of the session.
That's fantastic. I'm going to give Matt the last word. Same question to you that I posed to Ada. What advice do you have for people thinking about this program?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the program is for you if you're looking to make a big impact, right? If you're looking to make a bigger impact than you feel like you currently can, given maybe your knowledge base or just I'd say also the program gave me the ability to practice my professional communication skills in a way that I would have not otherwise been able to ramp up on without it. So I found myself being much more confident in the workplace as well, which is very important. And I'd say that if the idea of joining the MTL program feels like a big leap of faith, maybe, or makes you a little nervous, I'd say that's all the reason to do it. I think sometimes you have to take those big leaps in order to gain a lot of return, right? That investment is really whatever you put into it is what you get out of it for sure with this program. And I think that if you know that you want to make a big impact and you think that this might be the right fit for you, it might feel nervous or scary because it felt like that for me, right? And Ada also mentioned there's an imposter syndrome aspect to it, especially when you get around a cohort full of very ambitious people that have impressive backgrounds, especially such diverse backgrounds. So I think it's a leap of faith that I'm so happy I took. And I would definitely recommend others to consider it greatly.
What a beautiful way to end. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I love it. Thank you so much, Matt, for joining us. We wish you and Tyler and Colleen, Cognitive Edge, all the success in the world. So good to see you. And all of you online, thank you very much for taking your lunch with us this afternoon. Any questions, you can email me, my colleague Susan, professional@brown.edu, and we will see you again. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.